Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network. Wednesday, March 2nd, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, Jimmy Murphy. Andrew McInnis will be along momentarily as well, ready to break down the Wednesday NHL card. New intro video, by the way, today, if you're watching on YouTube. Looking forward to breaking down this Wednesday card. And Alex, good to have you back. I mean, obviously, you weren't on the Tuesday show or the Betcast last night. Couldn't make it. Feeling a little under the weather, but it looks like you're doing better today. What did you think of the hockey action we saw on a busy Tuesday night?
Yeah, I wasn't available to be on the show, so apologies for that. But definitely was tuned into all the action last night, and obviously the big game I focused on was right down the street from me, Calgary and Minnesota. We always talk about teams coming off of that tough road trip, coming back home, and it's just kind of fitting that Calgary, Minnesota ended the wild road trip playing in Calgary. Flames get here and get the 5-1 win. They had been here well over 24 hours in advance, so they were fully rested and ready to kind of shake off a couple of the bad losses they had suffered going back. So a big win for Calgary, another tough loss for the Wild, team that really has to try to figure things out. They've got about 19 days before the trade deadline. I think they need to make some kind of move to shake things up because this is still a good hockey team, but they're just struggling at the wrong time. They need something to kind of turn things around. Other things, other games of note from last night, looking at Vegas getting the 3-1 win over San Jose. Is the Sharks team we talked about it. They're going to just continue to slide down toward the bottom. Their playoff race is pretty much all but over at this point. The team that I can see maybe selling some pieces off. Like I said, as we get into the deadline. Of course, Columbus finding another way to win again, a 4-3 win over New Jersey. It's the team right now that's clawing and stretching and trying to get into one of those wild card spots in the East. So got to look for them. Like I said, the key is can they stop a bunch of shots and then find ways to score. 4-3 is still not exactly the kind of results you want to see from them. You want to see them trying to hold teams to maybe 2 or 1 goals every now and then if they're going to try and make themselves a true playoff contender in the second half.
Yeah, no question. New Jersey is going to be able to score goals, which is why that team total, I think, continues to be worth a look for the Devils last night. I split it half and half. Half of it won because I had half of it on over 2.5, half of it on over 3.5 with New Jersey. But we also had the full game over, which was the best bet for me on Tuesday's show with the Devils and the Jackets. We saw Tampa Bay erase a slow start. They were down 2-0. Maybe a little Nashville hangover, as Jimmy alluded to early in that game against Ottawa last night, but they got over it pretty quickly. 5 unanswered goals. They end up beating the Ottawa Senators 5-2. Mikko Koskinen has looked, honestly, like Bernie Parent, Ken Dryden, Patrick Waugh, Marty Brodeur in his prime the last 2 games. I can't believe it. Mikko Koskinen, again, stealing the show. Terrific. 39-save shutout over the Philadelphia Flyers. 3-0. Following up what was a brilliant performance from him against Florida on Saturday afternoon as well. So have the Oilers got Mikko Koskinen? Has he found it? We'll see. But this is just 2 games. That's always what I have to caution everybody. This is just a 2-game sample size. The one issue we've had with Koskinen, Smith, and any Edmonton goalie for it seems like the last decade is consistency. And can he maintain this level of play, or at least somewhat close to this level of play moving forward? That's going to be the big question. What a win for Detroit. Cashed the team total over 2.5 with Detroit. Didn't necessarily expect them to win the game, but they won it. Came back from a 3-2 deficit in the third, tied it late, Dylan Larkin, and then Lucas Raymond in overtime. A 4-3 win for the Detroit Red Wings. Those giant killers, that's the one thing that I'm still proud of to this day, because I said it, Alex said it and agreed with the sentiment. Detroit was going to be one of those teams that in big dog spots from time to time, they'd rise up and pull off some big wins against better teams. And boy, they did that last night, 4-3 over Carolina. The woes continue for Minnesota. Our guy Terry Edelman pretty much checked out of the Betcast the moment that game got away from the Minnesota Wild last night. But obviously, if you're a Wild fan, including Terry, you're not feeling good about where this team's at the moment. A 5-1 loss to Calgary. You know what was really bad? And when a team is just not playing well, they're a little bit emotionally vulnerable right now. I saw Goodbranson just pummel Kaprizov into the boards late in that game. against Minnesota last night, and nobody responded. Nobody did anything. That's Kirill Kaprizov. That's Kirill the Thrill. That's your go-to guy. That's your stud. That's your star player. And no response, to Goodbranson. I know Goodbranson's a tough guy that can handle himself and he's, can drop the gloves and he's good at it. But someone's got to get in there and say, you can't do that to Kaprizov in a 4-1 game like that. And I didn't like that lack of respect. And I know Dean Evison probably didn't like it. If Dean Evison's on the ice, he's going to go after Goodbranson because that's the kind of player he was back in the day. But that was disappointing to see that. Colorado, not easy. The Islanders pushed them, but they use a big third period, as they usually do on home ice, to get the 5-3 win. As Alex mentioned, Vegas won. And Anaheim with a big 4-3 win. Trevor Zegras with the game-winning goal. Jimmy said it on Twitter. Absolutely true. It's a great season, great defenseman he is, Charlie McAvoy, but horrible penalty to take there in the final minute. Brutal penalty in that time of the game to take that, and it ends up costing the Bruins in that one. Jimmy, thoughts on what we saw last night?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start there, guys, and thanks for the credit there. But a lot of people coming back at me hard, saying, "Well, how do you dismiss what Craig Smith
did
there?"
Just that was bad too.
Asked there for the I agree. Yeah, I completely agree. But I'm just saying, I mean, maybe it's because I just hold McAvoy now to such a high standard, because I really do think that he's part of that next wave of elite defensemen in this league, and I just don't expect to see that from him. And like I respect him so much that I always believe he's not going to do that, and he's going to find another way to slow the guy down without taking that call. So that's where it came from there. But yeah, hey, look, credit to Anaheim, guys. And, as you guys were just going over the games here, you mentioned in Detroit there, Anaheim, Winnipeg. You haven't even talked about that game. That was insane. Yeah. And I'm just thinking, like, I don't think we're at the point yet where we're starting to see all three of those teams completely fade out, because just when we think that they're going to go down for the count and be out of the playoff race, they win, and they have some really dramatic wins too. And I give a lot of credit to Anaheim, because the Bruins came back in that game, but Anaheim saw that they were on tired legs, and they took advantage of kind of some mental brain farts on the Bruins' part and buried it at the end there. So good on them. And like I said, the Winnipeg-Montreal game was the other game I was really focused on. I was trying to keep up with everything, but man, that was a great game. I know it was a 4-goal game, but it really wasn't like that. It was like a book. It had a lot of chapters, and it was just back and forth excitement. And one thing I want to say, it's not really betting related, but I don't know what you guys thought of it, but just a bad look for Mark Scheifele after he fights Wyden there, where he's got about 5 inches on and 100 pounds on. And he's revving it up like he's some tough guy.
Oh, revving the crowd up. I saw that. Like, let's go. Yeah.
Come on. Pipe down, buddy. Settle down. All right. Let's see what happens when you have to fight somebody bigger and somebody that just absolutely demolishes you. I now I'm starting to see why Jets fans don't like that guy. I didn't like that at all.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of an attitude at times, Mark Scheifele. Just a little bit. We're starting to see that. Good player. Obviously had a terrific game last night. 3 points. Definitely, that's kind of a miss by me. I actually did have Connor and Dubois over 1.5 points, and both of those guys cashed in their over 1.5 points last night. But I missed the boat on Scheifele, because I should have bet him, knowing he'd be facing Montreal and he'd be fired up for that one big time. Everything that's gone on, all the animosity, all the history going back to the playoffs. I figured he'd have a good offensive night, and he sure did for the Winnipeg Jets in that 8-4 win. Crazy game, because I had Montreal too on the money line, and we're on the betcast, and we think there's no hope when they're down 4-0. I guess just not their night. And sure enough, they roared back for 4 straight, 4-4, get our hopes up again. And there goes Winnipeg in the third, basically pulling away and getting the 8-4 win. So roller coaster ride if you had Montreal. You thought you were out of it early. You thought you were back into it at 4-4. And then you're pulled right back out of it again with Winnipeg winning 8-4. And before we get to tonight's card for Wednesday, let's give a shout out. He wasn't on the betcast. He wanted to make it, but couldn't. Chris Otto, 18-1 with his NHL wagers last night.
Wow.
18-1. He was a Vegas San Jose first period over away from being 19-0 last night. And of course, that one was 1-0.
Yeah.
Amazing. Chris Otto, congratulations. Like I said in the betcast last night, I'll reiterate it again because I thought it was funny. If you missed it on the betcast, when he posted 18-1, it's like, you're a fucking idiot, Chris. That one game, that San Jose Vegas, what a shitty pick that was, man. Terrible. You know nothing about hockey. What a bad play that was. Terrible. Terrible. You should do better next time. Yeah. No, that's an amazing job, Chris. Congratulations. 18-1. Great night for Chris Otto with his plays. And he's high volume like me, so we're cut from the same cloth in that regard. We're both high volume betters, especially when it comes to hockey. So great stuff from Chris Otto, 18-1. Great betcast last night. Great turnout. We had some new faces as well. We had 8 or 9 people in there at one point. So thanks to everyone for joining us last night on the betcast. And we'll be doing it again, like I said, every Tuesday night, rest of the season. Great timing to have, it looks like Andrew's joining us right now. Great timing because we're getting into the Wednesday card. We'll start with the Buffalo Sabres and the Toronto Maple Leafs. We've got Toronto minus 370, home favorites, 6.5 the total in this game. Obviously, we've got the Leafs playing better again. They've won three in a row, in fact. Minnesota, Detroit, and Washington after that little 3-game slide. Now, do they keep it going here tonight against the Buffalo Sabres? We know Buffalo's not very good. They've lost 6 in a row. They've struggled. They've certainly not rolled over, though. I mean, the St. Louis game, it was an admirable effort on the road, tough place to win. Blues have a terrific home record, and they pushed St. Louis pretty good in that game, ended up 5-3, the final score. Even the Dallas-Buffalo game, I mean, the Dallas Stars need points right now to try to get into the playoffs, and it was a competitive effort, even in defeat for the Buffalo Sabres in that game. For Toronto here, you look at what they've been through, right? A huge game against Minnesota to get off the losing streak. They won that wild, emotional roller coaster ride. It was crazy. It was like Montreal-Winnipeg from Saturday night was that Toronto-Detroit game. 10-7 final score, football score. Crazy game that ended up being. And then last game, kind of a back and forth game against the Washington Capitals. They find a way to win, and now you're back home. It feels like a spot that stinks, to be quite honest with you, for the Toronto Maple Leafs. The question is, are the Buffalo Sabres good enough to capitalize on that? You know, I don't hate some of the looks in the chat. I kind of lean in that direction with Jeffrey. Some people liking maybe Buffalo to score in the first period, which is over a half a goal, minus 120, or Buffalo first period. Maybe they take Toronto by surprise. This feels like the St. Louis game at home for the Leafs a little bit. They're off a couple of big wins. They're back home off the road. And I remember that first period against the Blues, they were down 2-1 in the opening after the opening period. It kind of feels like that could be the case here tonight, that maybe they're not quite sharp in the opening part of the game. It's one of those spots like with the Islanders last night. Yeah, the Islanders could put up a fight for a while against Colorado, but Colorado took over and won. Kind of feels like we might see this in Buffalo-Toronto tonight. Buffalo might actually have the better of it early in the game, but do we trust the Sabres through 60 minutes, when the Leafs eventually wake up, which could happen like Colorado did last night, like Tampa Bay did last night? Do we trust Buffalo to actually win the hockey game? No. I think if you like Buffalo, and I think it's not a bad situational look there, Buffalo first period, or maybe to score in the first period. You know what I'm on from a prop standpoint in this game for Buffalo? You know, Tage Thompson. That's who. We keep on cashing the goal scorer prop with Tage Thompson. We're going to keep on betting it at this point in time. The guy's been terrific for the Buffalo Sabres, playing with extreme confidence. And that top line is the one line that's given you something offensively for the Buffalo Sabres right now. Thompson with Tuck and Skinner for this Buffalo team have been terrific on that top line. You look at Thompson, the last 5 games, he's got 6 goals in those games, and he scored a goal in 4 of the last 5 games. He's been a shots on goal dynamo the last 2 games. He had 8 shots in both the games against St. Louis and Dallas. So you could go over shots. You could go to score a goal. Hell, you could even go with over points, although the last few games that he scored, that's all he's done. He scored the 1 goal and just gotten the 1 point. So I like the goal scorer prop with Tage Thompson more than anything else, and you're still getting pretty good prices with him to find the back of the net, upwards of plus 175, plus 180. Good prices here for Tage Thompson, anytime goal scorer. A couple books actually close to plus 200 as well. So very much going to ride that. Lean to the full game over as well, 6.5 over series history with these two teams. It's just Buffalo and Toronto seem to play crazy games. We saw 5-4 earlier this year. We saw 5-2 last year, 5-3, 6-4. Lots of goals galore with Buffalo against Toronto head-to-head, so it's hard to look any other way but over with the full game for me. Alex, what do you think here, Sabres, Leafs?
Yeah, of the 4 games tonight, this is the one I care about the least, honestly. I don't like anything here, especially when you look at Toronto. They finally got things rounded in form, one of the last 3 games. Buffalo's just been in a tailspin, giving up goals in bunches. So you wonder, like I said, this could be a iffy spot for Toronto. They may not start off, with the hottest run, especially like I said, playing a weaker team like Buffalo. But at the same time, they can kind of stumble out of the gate, play halfway decent, and get 2 goals in the first period. So I don't want anything to do with Buffalo right now. Don't want anything to do with Toronto at these high prices. You even have to lay a price of $1.25 for 4.5 on the team total. So maybe if you're looking for something, try to get something adjusted in game. I haven't really done that with team totals too often, but if I had to play something in this contest, that would probably be Toronto over team total live, and see if I can get that knocked down at 3.5 and lay a little bit better of a price. But other than that, I'm staying away from it.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those games. And Michael Bunting, again, on the road, cashed a goal scorer prop the other night. Not tonight, though, because a lot of he definitely could score tonight. Wouldn't surprise me. But a lot of his goals, part of the reasoning with taking him he's been scoring on the road like crazy. Not that he can't score on home ice, but most of his goals for Bunting lately have been on the road for sure. We'll see if the home scoring can occur tonight for him in this game. Should be interesting because we've seen enough of this Leafs team where this feels like that one spot here and Buffalo does give them a headache in a lot of games. It seems like Buffalo does show up to play the Leafs and always plays them tough. We'll see if that continues tonight. Andrew, welcome in. What do you think, Buffalo, Toronto?
Good to be here, guys. A big shout out to everybody that watched the betcast last night. Always a good time, besides when my Montreal Canadiens lose. And I'd say that was probably the most least focused I've been on the betcast, but probably the most entertaining I've been because I was losing my shit in real time while you guys were, while I was on there with you guys. So
and unlike Terry Edelman, you don't mute yourself to hide the reaction and the emotion. Yeah. Come on, Terry. You got to be better than that next time. No unmuting yourself when there's a goal in a Minnesota game, whether it's a Minnesota goal or the other team. We got to hear the emotion, the natural reaction. Come on.
We want to hear you.
Yeah.
You heard me getting excited and you heard me getting pissed. That's for sure. Yesterday, even when there's a penalty called against the Habs, I'm not happy. But in this game, guys, I can't believe I'm really saying this, but after diving into it, I've actually landed on the under in this one, under 6.5. I think that with how many sloppy games we've seen from the Maple Leafs so far in the past little while, and throw in that 10-7 game that some people are kind of putting a line through, I'm not. It's a game that you kind of you want to have in your mind and you want to get it out of the way. And what I mean by that is you need to have a really good defensive performance sometime soon. And this Buffalo team that couldn't score against the 4 of us, I think that's a good team to do it against. Their top line is great, and Buffalo is a great prop team, for shots on goal with Thompson or Alex Tuck. But other than that, I think we could see a fatigued start from the Leafs, one of those letdown spots like I've been preaching. And, I think worst case scenario, 4-2 Leafs, maybe 3-1 Leafs. I think this might be a statement game as far as the Leafs go, goaltending wise, defensively as well. I mean, one of the reasons why I love the Carolina Hurricanes so much to win the Eastern Conference or the Stanley Cup in general is their defense. Even the Pittsburgh Penguins, they have the ability to win games that are low scoring. The Leafs have proven that on a small scale this year, but they want to get back into that. It's been some suspect goaltending, a little bit of bad defense, but there's no doubt from any of us about how talented their offense is. They need a good defensive performance and a good goaltending game. And I think tonight we get it. Peter Mrazek, Craig Anderson. I'll hope for a low-scoring game here.
Under. Mrazek has played better lately, and I never thought I'd say this, but Craig Anderson's been actually better than Tokarski. Tokarski's really had a tough time the last few starts he's had, and he's actually been a little bit better, Anderson, than Tokarski. And, of course, you'll see the old veteran in net here tonight for the Sabres. Jimmy, what do you think here, Sabres and Leafs?
Well, one thing I'll say here, guys, it just, in terms of Mrazek there and in the game and where this Leafs team is headed, the fact that Mrazek is getting so many starts in a row here and coming back, and they're going to him tonight, considering he didn't exactly play that great the other night, I thought he was solid, but he wasn't anything special. He didn't do anything to steal the game. That doesn't say a lot of good things about Jack Campbell and where this is headed right now. And I'm really starting to think that we got to start to watch the Leafs as a candidate for Marc-Andre Fleury, if Fleury is willing to do it, because
How do they do it, Jimmy?
I don't know, but I mean, they've clearly, and look, I hope that Jack Campbell can find his way and find himself, but he is in the dumps right now, man. He's saying, you look at those quotes and you look
It's
at
called Barry Muzzin in the LTIR.
Yeah.
And free up some space.
Exactly.
That's how
And
it's
you
done.
look at what Keith's saying. I mean, they're all saying it's mental, and that's not a good thing when you're a goalie. So he may need to just go down to the Marlies for a while on a condition assignment or something. He needs to find himself, and the Leafs don't have time for him to do that. So keep an eye on that. I think their goalie situation could change real fast, maybe even by the end of the week in Toronto. But as for this game, Andrew, it's funny. I was thinking the same thing. I'm going to go with you on that under. I like it. It's just because it doesn't make sense. It makes sense to me. I don't know if that just with these two teams, you would always think over, but I agree with you. Maybe for everything we just discussed and everything I just said, Toronto knows they need to tighten it up in front of their goalie until they have a guy back there they know they can depend on for the big saves. So I think they're thinking a little more defensively right now and maybe taking less chances than they usually would.
Let's do it, Jimmy.
Yep.
All right, liking the under as well. Series history is over for sure with these teams, but the Leafs' focus definitely coming into this game is trying to be better defensively. I thought they actually tried to play that way against Washington as well, even though Washington scored a few, which were a couple of bad breaks. Though there was a deflection goal on one. But yeah, obviously they're still trying to, remove the defensive scars of that 10-7 game, which again, a lot of those Detroit goals in the third period were bounces, some, good puck luck, good puck fortune, if you will, for the Red Wings. But still, obviously when you give up 7, you're not pleased. We'll see how the Leafs fare at the defensive end of the ice. Yes, Nicholas Lee, you joined us. Thank you for joining us on the Betcast last night. You couldn't stay around too long, but he had a gut feel on the under in the Wild and the Flames at 6.5. And, it got there 5-1. I mean, I wouldn't have you would have said Calgary scores 5. That game probably you would think go over the total with Minnesota at home, but just not a very good night from the Minnesota Wild. So congrats on that with the call there, Nick, on the under in that Minnesota Calgary game last night. All right, St. Louis Blues, New York Rangers, first half of a TNT national TV doubleheader tonight. Blues and Rangers. We've got Rangers minus 110. Home favorites. It's pretty much even money, actually, both sides. Some books have actually moved a little bit to the Blues as a slight road favorite here in this game. 5.5 the total. So this one is a little bit difficult here. Blues are absolutely playing great hockey. They have been 8-1 their last 9 games. They're absolutely on fire at the moment. But you look at the Rangers now coming off the game against Vancouver, where after the first period where they played pretty well, they did not play well after that, the New York Rangers. So definitely concerns about them now bringing a really strong effort tonight. After back-to-back losses over the weekend, the Pittsburgh game, they got shut out 1-0 by Tristan Jarry and the Penguins. Lose 5-2 to the to the Vancouver Canucks Sunday night with Alexander Georgiev in net. I hate to say this about the Rangers, but we're starting to see now proof positive how much Igor Shesterkin, shines up some of the blemishes on this New York Rangers team. I mean, it's just the one game he doesn't start, Georgiev in net against Vancouver, and they lose 5-2. And they're going to have to work on, the shot suppression, because there are too many games where I'm seeing these 32s, 36s, 37s, 42 in terms of shots they allow to the opponents. So it's definitely something the Rangers got to work on a little bit. And everybody will tell you in terms of expected goals and Corsi and puck possession and all of these key advanced numbers that number people will look at when it comes to NHL betting. A lot of these people aren't impressed with the Rangers in a lot of those statistical categories. So let's see if they can continue to work on that tonight. But it's obviously not going to be easy. Like I said, the Blues have won 4 straight. 6-1, not 8-1, by the way. 6-1 they are in their last 7 games. They've played good hockey, no question about that. The Rangers offensively have dried up a little bit. It's good to see Lafreniere score. Obviously, there's people people are way too quick to be using the B word, though, on Alexis Lafreniere. And you know what word I'm talking about, bust. Come on. I mean, it's too soon to say that right now.
He's on a good team, right?
Yeah.
That's the thing that bugs me is like players that end up on good teams like that. You don't stand out as much. Put Lafreniere on the Coyotes and call him a bust to me. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, he wouldn't be a bust anymore. He'd probably have 10 more goals on the season, right?
Yeah, the Rangers do have a depth of talent up front, and it puts Lafreniere in a position where he doesn't have to dominate every night. He can work at his own pace to become a better, more consistent NHL player. He doesn't have to show. If we get to probably the end of next year and he's putting up kind of the numbers we're seeing right now, then I'd get concerned that maybe we're just not going to see that progression to that, dominant superstar level that people thought for him. But it's too soon to say that right now. This is, like I said, a very, very tough game because the Blues are rolling. I'm not sure I want to go against them at the moment, especially with Husso in net. Ville Husso confirmed in net for the Blues. We know he has been very good for the St. Louis Blues. He's getting just as many starts, if not more, than Jordan Binnington at the moment because of how well he's played. But for the Rangers, it really does feel like we get their best effort tonight. Back-to-back losses over the weekend. They've been off since Sunday now, 2 days at home, no travel, practice time. Feels like a Rangers spot. I lean Rangers, to be quite honest. I'd take the Rangers here before St. Louis. I really think it's a good situational spot for them with probably Shesterkin back in net, which oddly enough, guys, hasn't been confirmed yet. You would think by now it would be, but we have not gotten full confirmation Shesterkin's the guy tonight, but certainly would expect him to be in net. Lean Rangers, don't love the game either way, and certainly a 5.5 with Shesterkin, that's never an the under run with Shesterkin is pretty remarkable at this point in time with how many unders we've seen cash for the New York Rangers with him in net, and understandable because of how good he has been all season long. But you saw a 1-0 game, 4-1, 2-1, 3-2, 2-1. Those are the scores in the last 5 starts with Shesterkin, all of them unders. So it's difficult to bet an over with him in net. I will bet Pavel Buchnevich. We talked about this on the BetCast. We love these spots where it's the former player going back home to face his old team for the first time, and that's Pavel Buchnevich tonight for the St. Louis Blues facing his former team, the New York Rangers. We like him to get on the scoreboard and score a goal tonight, absolutely. So Pavel Buchnevich at a very good price here, plus 250 in that range to score a goal, and it doesn't hurt his cause that he had one of his better offensive games against Chicago, scored a goal, 3 shots on goal in that game against the Blackhawks. I think he can find the back of the net tonight here against his former team. Alex, what do you think here, Blues and Rangers?
Yeah, I'm staying away from the side altogether in this one. You mentioned, this is definitely a spot where the Rangers need to come up big after some, bad back-to-back losses. But they're taking on a St. Louis team that's been playing really well. He said 1-4 in a row, 6 of the last 7. But also look at their record in Madison Square Garden, 10-4 the last 14 meetings. So going back for a few years now, they've been playing very well whenever they visit Madison Square Garden. And like you said, the goaltending matchup's pretty much a wash if it is Shesterkin in net. Obviously, Rangers are a much better team with him between the pipes. But Ville Husso has been one of the best, if not the best, backup in the league right now. He's pretty much transition almost into that starter role officially. And this just feels like it would be a back and forth game. I like the first period over 1.5 here. Laid $1.15 with that. And then this feels like where if we do see a 1-1 game after 20, come right back and bet that live under. Like you said, Shesterkin really tightens things up. This team tends to tighten it up a little bit. So I don't see it to be a runaway game throughout the entire 60 minutes, but I think we'll see at least a couple of goals here in the first 20.
All right, there we go. Like in the over in the first period. I don't want to go crazy with goal scorer props and what I think could be an under game, but Braden Schen's also a consideration. I've mentioned him a couple of times for the Blues, and he's definitely been good lately. A goal in 3 of the last 4 games and goals in 4 of the last 6 games for the St. Louis Blues. Andrew, Blues Rangers.
Well, it's definitely, the game of the night to me. I mean, this is going to be a great game to watch. I look forward to it. This is one that, I told you guys before, sometimes if I find myself searching for too much stuff, too much information, and trying to find the right play, that it's probably going to be one that I might stay away from. But I haven't made a bet on this one yet, so I'll keep it short and sweet here. It's hard to argue with the goaltending from both these teams. I think Igor has just been outstanding. I told you guys this months ago that he's underappreciated, and we're finally starting to see people realize what the Rangers are is a lot of it to do with him and, how great he's been. But Husso's been good as well. I think it's tale of 2 different tapes, though. I think we got one team, 2 losses in a row, one team playing their 8th game in a row in a different building, off several wins. I think the home team can pull it off, guys.
It feels like from a spot standpoint, that's a good one for the Rangers. We'll see if they can take advantage of it tonight. Jimmy, what do you think here? St. Louis, New York.
Yeah, kind of same feeling, guys. I mean, how you just got to look at this with the way Shesterkin's playing right now. I mean, this guy is a hard trophy candidate in my eyes, and you can't. It's hard to go over even when it's 5.5. So I'm on the other way, taking the under like you guys. I can see what Alex is saying with the first period. I think that's a smart one there. But overall, I'm going to stick with the under 5.5 total. And I'm with you. You got to jump on Buchnevich. I mean, you're going to actually take it even a step further. Give me 2 goals from him tonight, 2 or more.
Yeah, 2 or more. Usually you can get like plus 1,400 or 1,500.
Yeah, I'm looking at plus 1,200 right now.
Yeah. Usually in the 12, 14, 15 range to 1 odds for a player to score at least 2 goals in a game. So a little bit of a bargain bin shopper tonight, Jimmy Murphy with Pavel Buchnevich. See if he can find the back of the net a couple of times tonight. All right, we'll see if the LA Kings can find the back of the net once tonight, because that is something they were not able to do in their last game against the Boston Bruins. They take on Dallas. Dallas minus 140 home favorites, 5.5 the total in this one. It's just hilarious to see on Twitter reaction after the Kings-Bruins game, that in a game where Jonathan Quick was utter horse shit. That's the only thing he can say about it. He was absolutely pathetic. And that's a shame, because he's had a great season. He's had a really great season, but that was not a good game at all for him. Terrible. I mean, the DeBrusk first goal couldn't have gone in, shouldn't have gone in. Second goal was just as bad. It was a really rough night in net for Jonathan Quick, and he got pulled eventually. Now, the Kings weren't great. But you just cannot put yourself down 2-0 with that weak goaltending that subpar, and that's what happened to the Kings, and they couldn't get out of it. And credit Boston for playing a very good road game that night, and eventually it got away from them. Kings were in a good groove, and you can sense when you're a team that's playing well and winning games, and things start to go against you in a game, it's very difficult sometimes to flip that switch and get the train back on the tracks. And I think we saw that from the Kings Monday night in that game against the Boston Bruins. And keep in mind, Todd McClellan also battling COVID, wasn't on the bench. And I don't know if that threw them for a loop, or if that was something that negatively impacted them in that game, but certainly that doesn't help. That's for sure. But obviously an ugly game. But I like the quotes. I follow. We're upset. That's a loss we don't want to lose that big. We need to look ourselves in the mirror, learn from our mistakes. It was a good run, but we have to come back tomorrow and be ready for that next game. So that's good. I mean, you don't say, hey, we've had a great run. I sometimes when it's a great run and you have that kind of loss, you hear the team say, oh, but we've still won a bunch of games. There's nothing to worry about. No, that was an angry locker room. That was an angry dressing room for the Kings after that game against the Boston Bruins here. And you look at their record, 6-1 this season after a loss of 3 goals or more. They've been good off bad performances. I think they bounce back here. I don't like Dallas laying minus 140 against anybody, to be quite honest with you, in this league, especially a Kings team that's played some better hockey as of late. I'm willing to give them a mulligan for that game. Let's not forget they've actually figured out how to win on the road, this Kings team. 6 straight road wins coming into this game. Start of a road trip. The focus is there. They just got their ass kicked. They got Columbus next up, which won't be an easy game. Then they go to Buffalo, which they should win that. But this is a road trip that you need to start off on the right foot. You've had a good run, but you just got knocked down a peg or two, more than that, with the way they played against Boston. And here's your chance to respond here in the correct fashion against a Dallas team that, look, let's be honest with Dallas. Look at this schedule here the last few games with the 3-2 mark. They barely beat Chicago in a shootout, 1-0. They lost to Arizona. They barely beat struggling Winnipeg at the time, 3-2 in overtime. They lost in a shootout to Nashville, 2-1. That 4-2 game against Dallas, against Buffalo, they got outplayed, 40-31. If not for Ottinger in net, Sabres are right there with a chance to win that game. They actually carried it against the Stars, carried the game against the Stars Sunday afternoon. This is an LA Kings team, and I mentioned it on the BetCast last night. I'd be looking at the Kings in this spot at this price. LA for me, plus 120. And again, if you look like Kings props like I do in this game, same props. Same guys. Kempe to score a goal, Kempe over shots. That keeps on cashing. Iafallo has been a good over shots on goal prop. Doughty continues to be a guy that goes over his shots on goal more often than not. So that same group of players, Kopitar even has started to shoot a little bit more. So you could even look with him shots on goal. But one thing about Dallas is, as good as Ottinger's played, you're seeing them give up 47, 34, 30, 26 in some of these recent games, the Stars, in terms of shots on goal. It's not a good trajectory for them. So they might give up some shots tonight, which makes those shots on goal prop opportunities for the Kings even more appealing. Alex, what do you think here, LA, Dallas?
Yeah, I'm thinking the same way. I only would be looking at LA Kings here. They hadn't made my card officially, but that's a strong lean. Even though I know Dallas, they've played very well at home, won 4 of their last 5. Like I said, still don't feel comfortable enough laying $1.40 with them. I think the Kings are able to bounce back off of what was a really tough game against Boston, and should be able to. If they can get pace of the game early, they can keep control throughout. They should be able to find a way to get a win here. Wouldn't play in a regulation because this could definitely be a game that ends up being kind of tight and goes to overtime. So play just a straight up money line with the LA Kings.
Could get a better price on the double chance with LA. I might go that route because 2 of the last 4 head-to-head meetings have gone to overtime with the Stars and the Kings. So, yeah, I think it's probably a 1-goal game. Close game, obviously. I mean, even though I think LA can win the game, I don't expect them to go in there and rout Dallas. It'll probably be a very close game. Neither team really is good at gaining separation in a lot of their instances. So, definitely. And Kempe, Rich says it, Kempe's 7 goals last month were scored in their 5 road games. Yeah, the road warrior performance. Look, the Kings have won 6 straight on the road as a team, and Kempe has scored in a majority of those road games. So he's the number 1 target for me from a goal scorer prop standpoint with LA tonight. Andrew, what do you think here, LA, Dallas?
I'll tell you what, I was planning on fading LA a lot this week, but I don't love it as much since they're off that, game where they got their asses kicked. That's just that's the fact here.
One of those losses that you sometimes snaps you back the next game, and you're pretty pissed off, and you play with it. With that bigger.
Definitely. And some people might be on the opposite end of us thinking like that and think, oh, you're making too big of a deal out of it. But I still might play Dallas, to be honest with you. I think Dallas is better than people think they are, and I think the Kings are a good team, but they did have a light schedule last week, guys. But again, I just hate the fact that, the more I think about this game, the more I kind of think 5.5 could go over here, because I think that the Kings are, they're not going to be able to just snap out of it and all of a sudden play a great defensive game after allowing 7 goals. They're going to score some themselves, but I think Dallas will get it going at home too. So I lean towards Dallas, but I also kind of like the over. So obviously, as you can tell, I'm kind of mumble jumbled here because I don't like the fact that LA's off that massive loss, but maybe instead of playing the side, I'll end up just taking the over, expecting goals from both teams. So, what do you guys think about that? Any argument?
Well, LA has been more of a over team the last 10 games, 8-2 to the over. I actually did cash a small over bet with Dallas against Buffalo as well on the weekend, and it ended 4-2 in that game. And of course, all you need is 6 goals. That snapped a 6-game under streak for the Buffalo Sabres. The under's been pretty heavy in this series. 4 of the last 5 have gone under, but 5.5, and the Kings are trending over. So I don't hate it. It's not something I'm probably going to bet, but I don't hate it. Over 5.5 here. 8-2 to the over, like I said, with the Kings here in their last 10 games. Jimmy, what do you think here, Kings and Stars?
It was a Jimmy pass for me, guys. I just a tough one for me to figure out right now. I might dabble in some props on it. Looking at Tyler Seguin maybe for a goal prop, 1 goal, you can get some pretty good value. He's been picking up his game as of the last 3 games. So that's it for now, but it might be something I jive in live.
Yeah, definitely something you look at live. That's not 2 Alexes you see on the screen. It's just a there we go. Just got to
that kicked out, so it's still logged in for some reason.
Yeah, that's it. So there we go. We'll see if we can. There we go. I was going to say, there we go. Now we got one Alex is plenty.
Alex is evil twin.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, so that I think that's all I was going to. Was I going to say something else? No. Oh, just we don't know who the goalie's going to be yet for LA. We haven't gotten a confirmation yet. I would think it's quick just to give him a chance to rebound because he's really had a good season. That was a really bad game for him. Give him a chance to rebound, but you can't argue with Cal Peterson's numbers on the road, as someone in our chat points out. Yeah, I mean, he's been terrific on the road. It's been pretty good overall as well for the Kings. And you could see them going to Peterson as well. So we'll see what ends up happening. I like LA either way, by the way. It's not going to be one of those bets for me that's contingent upon who's going to be in net tonight for the LA Kings. I'm going to be on the Kings side regardless of who ends up being the goaltender in this one. All right, we've got Nashville and St. Louis, or it's not Nashville and St. Louis, Nashville and Seattle in the final game here on this Wednesday slate. This is the second game on TNT tonight. They probably wanted a little bit better game than this, but we'll have to wait and see how it goes. Nashville minus 180, road favorites, 5.5 the total. So I am very tempted to take Seattle in this game. Very, very, very tempted. But, I mean, Seattle can do things right like they did against San Jose and still lose. I mean, they did so many good things in that game. They were all over the Sharks, dominant in the offensive zone, chances galore. Couldn't beat James Reimer early in that game. And it seemed like San Jose would come down the ice after all the Seattle pressure and find a way to score. And sure enough, San Jose wins 3-1. But Seattle did so much good in that game against San Jose. 40-24. They carried the play. Dave Hackstall looked exasperated after the game, saying, you know what? We did a lot of good things. How am I going to go into the dressing room, he says, and criticize my guys for this tonight, even though we lost again? We did a lot of great things in this game against San Jose. We carried the play. We were all over the offensive zone for a majority of that hockey game. And unfortunately, we weren't rewarded for our effort and our work level, he said, in that game. And that's been a lot for Seattle lately because they've actually had some decent efforts time to time. Yeah, they're outmanned. Yeah, they're on a tough 7-game losing streak right now, but they showed you a little in that game. And it's kind of like with Nashville tonight here in Seattle, we got to worry about it, what we worried about with Tampa Bay last night against Ottawa. You know, that was the big outdoor game. They hosted it. Now, they lost the game. Tampa won the game. So maybe it was a greater hangover for Tampa because they won the game. They're on the road partying in Nashville. Nashville's always, at home in Nashville. They know the entertainment scene. Maybe they're not going out after that outdoor game, after a loss. So maybe it's not as big of a factor. But, you're still coming off the pomp and circumstance of hosting an outdoor game for the first time. Nashville, they've been in one, but it was the first time they've hosted one on the weekend. And now they're going on the road and facing a Seattle team that, look, they're still losing games, but boy, they're at least showing you some life. They're showing you some signs of improved play as a team. And we saw it in that San Jose game. Unfortunately, they just had another loss to show for it, and they deserved a lot better in that game. So this might be Seattle first period here for me. Maybe an early good start for them. Because just like with these inferior teams, do you trust them to win the game over 60 minutes? I really don't, personally. I don't trust them to win the game over 60 minutes. But early in the game, could they pounce on Nashville, coming off the outdoor game, coming off a little bit of confidence, feeling we liked a lot of things about our game against San Jose, even though we didn't get the result we wanted. So this might be a small little flyer for me on Seattle plus 140 first period. Maybe they could jump on Nashville in the first 20 minutes. Other than that, I'm probably not going to do a whole heck of a lot with this game from a betting perspective. Alex, what do you think here? Nashville, Seattle.
Yeah, I love this first period over here tonight. You got Seattle on an 8-game streak going over in the first period. Like I said, that's mostly due to the teams they've been playing against. And this is Nashville, a spot where, yeah, it could be kind of maybe a slower start, but I think it's going to be more of the opposite. I think we're actually going to see them come out with some pace and some tempo because of the fact, like you said, getting caught up in the pomp and circumstance of being in an outdoor game, like you said, furthermore, hosting it. And end up losing that. Sometimes that can kind of, kind of drag you down a little bit. But you get to hit the road and hit a West Coast road trip at that, to start. I think Nashville's going to be a little bit more into focus, a little bit more in this game. Seattle could have some chances going back and forth as well. So I like the first period over. You're only laying $1.20. That's a great price considering the run Seattle's had with that lately.
About Seattle is even though they lost the game, they did find the back of the net in the first period against San Jose. Something to consider here in this one. Of course, for Seattle, unfortunately, like they could give up a lesser amount of shots and chances, and yet somehow they still give up goals. It's just been that kind of year. The team defense, it's just they could do a lot of the right things, and still the puck ends up in the back of their net. They're fishing it out of the back of their net, and that's been kind of their season. The team defense hasn't played the way we thought it would. Chris Drieger and specifically Philip Grubauer haven't played as well, although Grubauer's been better lately. we do have to acknowledge Grubauer has been better lately, but it's going to be Chris Drieger confirmed in net tonight for the Seattle Kraken. And, he's a guy that hasn't been getting as many starts lately because Grubauer's played a little bit better. We haven't seen Drieger since the Vancouver game, February 21st, gave up 4 goals. Before that, against Toronto, gave up 3. Anaheim gave up 3. Boston gave up 3 February 1st. So that's 4 straight starts, 3 goals or more allowed for Chris Drieger. So it's the one thing that does concern you a little bit is that, Seattle could outplay Nashville and yet find themselves in the first period and yet find themselves trailing potentially early because, there's somehow, some way they give up just 8 shots or 6 shots in a period. And yet here's the other team scoring a goal or 2. That's the way it's gone for the Kraken this year. Andrew, what do you think here? Nashville, Seattle.
I'm on the over 5.5 in this game. I think I've talked about Seattle and how they're just going to fly under their projected win total, and they've underachieved this year, we all think. But they can trade goals, I think, with this Nashville team. And I was talking to someone earlier today about this Nashville team and where they sit in the Western Conference and kind of the capability they have. Good goaltending as well, but sometimes they just get caught up in these track meet games. And I just have a feeling we might see them kind of take Seattle a little bit lightly out the gate, see Seattle get a couple themselves, and then Nashville kind of fight back or kind of take over the game as the game progresses. So at minus 180, I wouldn't lay it with the Preds. I think we get over 5.5 here.
Both teams to score first period might be something to consider as well. We did see it in the Seattle-San Jose game, right? Both teams to score. And you're actually getting better than the average price of that lately that I've seen has been plus 130, plus 140, sometimes plus 150. You're getting plus 170 in this one with the both teams to score in the first period. I could see that because, look, Seattle really did. Had a ton of chances. The first period, what did they outshoot San Jose? Like 19-6 or 21-6 it was. And they did score a goal, but they probably could have scored a lot more than they did. And they're always a risk to give up one in the opening period with their, the defense and the goaltending has just not been necessarily as good this year as we all thought. So that first period, both teams plus 170. That's staring at me. I might get in on that. What do you think, Jimmy? Nashville, Seattle.
Yeah, guys. I'm just looking at this game right now, and it's a tough one again to figure out here. But I'm liking Seattle here. I like the way they've been playing as of late. They're in games more, and they're just the competition's better from them. And I like to say, I watched them closely last week when they played the Bruins, and I thought it was a really good game against a Bruins team that was just starting to really pick up their game and play the hockey we saw them play for that streak until last night. So I'm going to go with the underdog here.
All right, there we go. Liking Seattle here, picking it up. That was a terrific game against. I know they lost 3-1, but territorially, possession-wise, the flow of play, that was as good as we've seen from Seattle in a long time. We'll see if they can at least carry some, a moral victory of sorts in that game against San Jose, if they can carry that over to this one here tonight against the Nashville Predators. Great stuff here with Jimmy, Andrew, and Alex on this Wednesday edition of the Ice Guys. We'll get to best bets in just a second. Before we do, a reminder about DraftKings Sportsbook, official sports betting partner of the NBA and NHL. Of course, a great association here with the Hockey Podcast Network as well. A reminder, of course, NBA season is back from the All-Star break, and new customers, you can get involved with NBA action following the break and bet just $1 on any NBA team and get $150 in free bets if they win. It's that simple. If DraftKings Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you can still take your shot at a very big payday. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes with DraftKings Daily Fantasy Basketball Contest. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code THPN. Bet just $1 on any NBA team and get $150 in free bets if they win. That's promo code THPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA and NHL. Must be 21 years of age or older. Minimum age and location requirements vary by jurisdiction. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for full list of requirements and state-specific responsible gaming resources. Void where prohibited. Minimum $5 deposit. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Download the DraftKings app, sign up for an account, use the promo code THPN. All right, best bets to wrap up the Wednesday edition of the Ice Guys. Alex, we'll start with you. What do you like for best bet?
Yeah, let's go back to that Nashville-Seattle late night game on TNT. We'll go with that first period over 1.5, laying $1.20, no more than $1.25. Seattle's cashed 8 first period overs in a row. They're taking on a Nashville team that's gone 18-5 the last 22 games with a goal in the first 10 minutes of play. So we should see a fast start from both teams. Seattle's playing better despite being on a 7-game losing streak, and Nashville looking to kind of to get the bad taste out of their mouth after losing that outdoor game at home on Saturday. So we'll go Preds and Kraken first period over is my best bet.
All right, there we go. Preds and Kraken over 1.5 first period. Best bet for Alex B. Smith. Andrew, next up, what do you like for best bet?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the under in that Leafs game. Under 6.5, Leafs and Sabres. It just kind of, it's one of those things, kind of like Jimmy said. If we didn't dive into it like our job is to do, I think it'd be very easy to say Sabres, Leafs, sign me up for an over. But I think both teams have to realize that, the way they've been playing hasn't been great for either of them. They need to play defensively, take care of the puck, and take care of their own end. So, as much as nobody likes to watch and cheer on and under, I'm going to watch the Leafs game tonight and hope for a goaltending battle.
All right, there we go. Toronto Buffalo under 6.5 for Andrew with his best bet for this Wednesday night card. Jimmy, we won't do the best bet cam for Jimmy because there is no cam for Jimmy right now.
Lucky for you.
Lucky for everyone watching.
Yeah.
Jimmy, what do you think for best bet tonight?
I'm right there with Andrew. Great minds think alike, I hope. So
Awesome.
sign me up for that as well. I look at it, like I said, just looking at the way I think the mentality of the Toronto Maple Leafs right now in this moment is we can't depend on our goalies. So we've got to tighten it up the middle, and we've got to play within a system. We can't be the creative team we usually like to be. And that may make for some boring hockey, but it's also could make for a good under here.
All right, good stuff. Buffalo, Toronto under 6.5. I think, look, Andrew actually recommended, didn't make his card, but I think he recommended at least a lean, if not a look toward Edmonton and Philly under the total of 6.5.
Don't remind me.
Yeah.
Don't
tell me you didn't go through with it, man.
No, I didn't.
No.
Oh, I nailed it.
Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah. And there we go. Edmonton, Philly, figuring, you know what, that total's just a little too tall. Oilers are trying to play a little better defensively. Koskinen's in a groove. Hart was in net for Philly, and he's played better lately as well. And sure enough, 3-0 final score. So
it's definitely one of those things, Jimmy, I've learned to not let it piss me off anymore.
No.
Yeah.
It's better to just know that I was right. Back in the day, I used to be like, that's why I have to start spraying the board, but it definitely sucks when you see a game like 2-0 with 10 minutes to go in a game. and I was on a show like vouching for the under, but it is what it is.
Koskinen looked like Dwayne Rolliston of old there.
Yes, he sure did.
Out of nowhere.
I mean, 2 games in a row, like I said, he's looked like a combination of Bernie Perrott,
watch out.
Patrick Waugh, and Marty Brodeur in their prime. It's insane.
What the hell's going on there?
I know. Can he do this again? It's a 2-game sample size. We got to see more.
I'd hate to be Ken Holland right now. I mean, you're probably looking for a goal, and then you see that, and you're like, well, wait a minute.
Pump the brakes, right, on a Fleury or anyone else you're talking about in terms of upgrading at the goaltender spot, no doubt. All right, my best bet to wrap things up, LA Kings. We're going to hopefully crown the Kings tonight in Big D against the Dallas Stars. Los Angeles Kings plus 122 is the best price currently available with them. LA Kings, road underdog spot after an abomination against Boston. I think we get a much better performance from the Kings, who have won 6 straight on the road. Going into this game tonight, we'll see if they can make it 7 straight on the highway. Los Angeles Kings plus 122 against Dallas for my best bet. That'll wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys. Thanks to everyone in the chat for joining us. We appreciate it. 179 live viewers on YouTube right now. Hit the like button on the way out if you haven't done so already. We appreciate it. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms. Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. Download the Ice Guys podcast whenever you can't watch the show live. For Andrew McInnis, Alex B. Smith, Jimmy Murphy, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Wednesday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we'll talk to you again tomorrow on Thursday for another edition of the Ice Guys presented by the Hockey Podcast Network.